This is Counsel Cast, part of the Legal Talk Network, and I'm your host, Karin Conroy. When you face a complex case outside your expertise, you bring in a co-counsel for next-level results. When you want to engage, expand, and elevate your firm, you bring in a marketing co-counsel. In this podcast, I bring in marketing experts who each answer one big question to help your firm achieve more. Here's today's guest.
Gert Mellak here from SEOleverage.com. Thank you so much for inviting me again, Karen.
Gert, that is probably the most succinct intro I've ever heard, maybe because you've been here so many times. I think this is your third. I think you're the first person who I've had on 3 times. I've had a handful of double guests, but this is the first one because this is going to be a good one. This is such the core of what so many law firms think their entire marketing strategy is. And so the title for today's show, I want to get this out of the way so we can just get into it, is What Every Lawyer Needs to Know About Online Reputation and Referral Growth. So the first place I want to start is if I had $1 for every time a firm started the very first conversation with me by saying, we don't really think we need marketing. We really depend on just word of mouth and referrals. And they think those are 2 separate things. And so they start there. And not only are they 2 separate things, but somehow this idea of the word of mouth referrals is not marketing is also kind of part of this conversation. So usually I step back and we start by explaining how your reputation is marketing. So let's start there. Let's talk about your book, which is all about your online reputation and what that has to do with marketing.
Okay, absolutely.
Just a little question.
definitely, first of all, honored to be the first speaker. Being here 3 times, it's always amazing to just exchange and brainstorm with you here about the marketing. The book Fix Your Online Reputation came really from a lot of clients that have issues. Some even don't even know about them. So they come to us for SEO help. We type in their brand name and they say, whoa, let's start in a different corner, because they maybe want some certain rankings for some particular specialty they have, and they want to bring those clients in, which is understandable. But very often they have actually a reputational issue they're not aware about. So,
or maybe they are. I know you probably see this all the time too, but what's super common, I feel like, with lawyers and law firms is some bad reviews. So sometimes they're not even necessarily people you worked with. They are just angry because they were on the opposing side. And so it's so common, but everyone freaks out about it.
Absolutely. You have those people. We also have those people who ignore them completely. And so now we, like you say, we base our business on word of mouth anyway. So we don't need those review stars. Nobody thinks that word of mouth usually leads to a Google search. So I look this person up and see what I can find out about them because they got referred, even if it's just to find their phone number.
Right.
And then you see 1 out of 5 stars and you say, hey, why is this actually happening? There are 10 reviews and it's just 1 or 2 out of 5 stars. There is at least a little bit of a moment of consideration. So I think what we just really need to see is very often these days, it's not SEO and Google search that brings people or makes people aware of you. They might discover you elsewhere, and word of mouth is the perfect example, or referrals. But it very often it's going to lead to a Google search about you, about your brand, about people who have had a specific issue about it. I was just on a call with someone who is selling a course, has been for 10 years, high quality course, but there are a few comments out there where people don't like his way of explaining this or don't think he's professional enough. And this actually costs him sales.
Yeah.
And if you multiply this and say there's 1 client or 2 clients each year that don't buy from you because of your reviews, it's definitely already worth doing something about it. Make this 10 and you have a positive return on investment, definitely.
Well, let's just start with the basic idea that these reviews and the testimonials, they have a true value, or places like Amazon wouldn't care so much. And they wouldn't sort by the rankings and reviews. And you wouldn't see that everywhere you go. Like, it is critical and it is a major part of any kind of business. Your reviews, your reputation, what people are saying, and the testimonials, or all of the things that fall under that same umbrella. Like, they are so critical, but they also have a true value.
Absolutely. I very often compare it to being in a party and there is, for example, a lawyer, and you ask around who has worked with this person, and you just listening to what they say, what their experience was. He was like not too professional, didn't really win my case. And this other person also lost their case with this lawyer. The other one, yeah, they took them time to get back to me, etc. What are you going to do? It's exactly the same thing online. You want to know what experience other people had. And unfortunately, and this is really the issue of those reviews, somebody having a good experience does not care enough to actually state it
Right.
unless there is a process in place. And this is one of the major points in my book where I say, hey, it's one thing to fix a problem, but it's another thing to actually prevent this from happening in the first place.
So let's start first with the overall idea is, especially from your book, is fixing it. So let's start with the idea that you're a firm who's got some negative reviews out there, whether they're true or not, and whether it's just, somebody on the other side, you never even worked with them, or maybe there's some truth to it. What's the first thing a firm should do about those?
I think the first thing is recognize that this is just something you are not going to just remove and that's it.
Yeah.
So I think very often you see reputation management firms without actually even showing who is there doing this work, because they want to come across as like the hackers that can hack into Google and remove this and somehow make this magically disappear.
Yeah.
So let's start there. This is not possible, right? You
No,
can
and it's
flag it.
possibly damaging, right? So like this idea that there's these people out here that can take those negative reviews off. No, don't do that. Bad idea.
There's even one case, I talk about it in the book as well, where somebody actually took down the negative issue, but published the lawyer's letter he got to take it down, which was even worse. So they were like, yeah, this brand sues everybody who talks negatively about them. Here is the lawyer's letter. I'm taking this down now. And it still ranked on page 1. It was even worse. So I think the strategies here are essentially twofold. First of all, you want to minimize the visibility and the impact.
Okay, so how do you do that?
You do that on one hand by getting positive reviews as soon as possible from real people. You don't want to fake this because Google knows about the location. They can technically, with the machine learning, figure out if you ever were near them, if you had communication with them. They have enough data points about us these days that it's really hard to long-term fake this review.
Yeah.
And then you just get an overall better rating.
Yeah.
This is one of the strategies, just to quickly try to minimize the impact. Another way is to run ads and put them on top. Somebody looking for your brand name could actually see an ad from you where you directly try to pick people up from the different areas. You just want to take attention away from this negative review as soon as possible. And this is something we had a client coming in today. Tomorrow, they're going to have less visibility on their negative review just because we're going to start running ads on their brand name with all kinds of versions. And this just reduces the impact a little bit.
So I read this great book, and I'm blanking on the title, but it wasn't necessarily about businesses. It was about people who had gone and made just a misstep personally, like on Twitter. And this was a similar strategy. So there was this woman who made a really kind of just dumb comment on Twitter about, I think it was about something about COVID. She got on a long flight. She was flying from, I think, the US to South Africa. By the time, and she only had something like 100 followers at the time. By the time she got to South Africa, she had hundreds of thousands of followers. She had lost her job. Her life was sort of ruined. And it's a good book. I'll find the name of it while we're talking. But the strategy in the end was basically to put better stuff out and sort of suffocate the negative stuff.
Exactly. Google likes fresh content for a start, right?
Yeah.
So if there is something fresh and better, and we probably need to start differentiating two types of reputational impact. One is the reviews, and those are the review stars and Google reviews, first and foremost, but also what people might talk about you on sites like Trustpilot, for example, or Glassdoor or other platforms. Those are like review kind of things, but there are also other negative contents out there, like from forums or from Google, from guest posts on blog posts or articles, comments, etc. So each type of negative communication, negative marketing out there, so to speak, needs its own approach. Ultimately, you definitely want to make sure that you control the conversation as much as possible, meaning, like you say, putting out enough positive content that people are interested in and Google might want to rank, in order to ideally push everything to page 2 or farther behind. And this is definitely one of the strategies, but takes a little bit longer. So it's very quickly to switch on an ad. It's not as quick to actually set up a process to get more positive reviews or actually create this content and place it.
Yeah, so kind of a combination approach. I can't find the name of that book. I'll find it. I'll find it, and we'll link to it on the show pages. But sort of a combination approach. So do both, like add positive things, but that's the slower. That kind of ties into SEO too, right? I mean, typically when we're talking to people about SEO, we're saying do a multi-layered approach where you've got the long-term vision and some organic SEO going on the site, combined with possibly ads, if that makes sense for your firm, so that you've got, things happening in different speeds and in different directions and all of that stuff.
Absolutely. And there's also one thing that comes to this is that Google, when you type in your brand name, you're going to see there are different types of contents showing. There might be social profiles showing, there might be a Reddit thread showing, there might be your personal page, your company's page. So you have different slots, and it's not easy to tell Google to ignore the Reddit thread and put a personal blog, for example, in this place. Google has an idea that on number 3 or in the top 3, they want a Reddit thread. So it's not, you really need to adapt the strategy based on what's ranking.
Yeah.
And how you think you can actually substitute this with something better.
Yeah. You don't get to tell Google that you disagree with item number 3. Google's just like, I don't care. This is what I've decided. So actually that goes into something else that we wanted to talk about, which is the knowledge panel. Because I feel like that ties in sort of with this visual that people are imagining right now with your search for your brand. And can you explain, first of all, the Google knowledge panel? This is not your Google business profile. These are two totally different things. And so can you explain what that is and how it works and why that kind of helps with all of this?
Okay, so first of all, Google Business Profile is like a business directory. Everybody can sign up there. It takes about 24 hours, I think, tops until you are listed there. I recommend everybody signs up there as long as you overall get positive reviews, because this is where people can actually leave a review about your company. This is where you can upload content, photos, edit your stuff, and really control what is actually shown there. And if you have any issues, you can also turn it off. Everybody should be doing this. Most companies have this already. Probably the IT person at some point set it up. And you just need to monitor it for negative reviews. The knowledge panel sits at the same place on the right-hand side of the search on the desktop, but it's not something that you can just sign up for or switch on. It's essentially a result of a very consistent process where Google has learned, based on the consistent information about a brand, what this brand is about, who this is, that they have written a couple of books, what their social media profiles are, etc. And this is really the way I explain this to clients, is that Google wants to connect the dots like a child wants.
Yeah.
And you need to give them consistent information, and they're going to slowly say, hey, if I do this, then this happens. If everybody, every day I tell my child that pigs can fly, the child is going to take this for granted.
Right.
Because it was consistent information. And then my wife comes and says, yep, yes, pigs can fly. And then they see a pig fly on the TV, they just connect the dots.
Right.
And pigs can now fly. Technically, Google would do the same thing. If they find enough consistent information they trust, they are going to state, yes, pigs can fly. And this is also, when it comes down to the brand, also is going to be, if it's consistent, Google is going to learn about the brand.
So can a knowledge panel be both a company and a person? Because the version I've always seen is usually under a person's name. But can it also be a company?
Technically, yes, but it's harder.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that ties back to the person, social media activities, etc., where Google gets more consistent information. It's not as easy to trigger it for a brand unless you have a publicly traded company, for example. You type in Apple or Microsoft, you automatically get the panel on the side. Yeah. Because there's enough trusted information. With a company, it's not that easy.
And I feel like that it gets confusing if the knowledge panel is a company and you also have a Google business profile. But so for myself, I have a knowledge panel, but it is under my name. It is not my company name. And so it really commands, anytime you search for me or my name, it really takes over, and it looks very different from the Google business profile. It has a photo of me. I owned it. I went in and claimed it and said, this is me. And then I could make a few edits. It used to be you could make more, but I could just add a few different things, and then Google will say yes or no. Like I could say, could you please do this? And they'll look at it, and half of the ones I sent over, they said no. But some of them they did approve, and it really helps with SEO.
It helps with SEO because Google ultimately, it's based on Google's brain. Google's what we call a knowledge graph. This is where they try to make sense of the world. So the bigger your knowledge panel, size really matters.
Yeah.
The bigger your knowledge panel, the more facts they have learned and trust about you.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They try to use this then also to determine the authority of your website, the credibility of your content. It all ties together. So there's definitely, it's like this long-term goal everybody should pursue in SEO. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take quite a while and quite some consistent effort. And you also need to defend it. You need to be very consistent. If you suddenly want to switch your specialty as a lawyer, for example, you are going to want to go back to those places where you say you specialized in accidents and now you specialize in mergers. You need to educate Google that change happen, and they can relearn, but it's an effort. So the more specialized you are, the better.
But that makes it so much more valuable because it takes a lot of time, so that when you see one, you realize this is not just something someone paid for. It wasn't just something you couldn't do overnight. I had to confirm with like a number of different ways. It wasn't just like, hey, click on this, we'll send you an email and a code. There was a whole confirmation process that took a number of days or weeks. I don't know what it was, but it was really involved. But then because of that, it has so much more validity. It's not just like, and it would be really hard for someone to pretend to be me also. So that this is really the real person. It's more than even truly like just even the blue check mark you see on like Twitter or social media. It's a lot more involved than that. So how can you use both SEO and your knowledge panel and all of these different pieces in order to improve your online reputation? Or if you have an issue like bad reviews, or maybe you just haven't done anything and for whatever reason you need to kind of fix it or make it better?
I think the main idea is somebody's going to type in your brand name and they're going to make a purchase decision or in favor or against you based on what they see.
Yep.
So you have Google's page 1. And Google's page 1 is the real estate we are fighting about. So we want to make sure that we control as much of page 1 as possible, both in the main search results, on top on the ad space, but also on the side with knowledge panel and Google business profile. I wouldn't exclude one if I have the other one presented well. So this is where we say, hey, what is actually the situation? We usually score the reputation in this case. And so what's the reputation score? We would elaborate. And what is the game plan from here? So there's always some consistent work pursuing a knowledge panel because it's a long-term goal. You think about right now it's Google, but it's also the other AI engines, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, whatever somebody might be using. Where do they get their information from? They search for consistent information on the internet. So even though it might not be something you see today, you want to make sure that you bake your brand into the AI algorithms and make sure this is actually setting you up for success. Maybe next year, you're going to see who has actually started early enough and who just waited because they thought 3 or 4 stars out of 5 stars is enough. I don't need to do anything else. Now is the second best time to actually start with this. The best was before ChatGPT launched.
That is so fascinating. And I really feel like people might not have really captured what you were just saying. So this idea that all of the information that these AI-driven platforms are using, it's not just they have the one resource. They're going to use what they're finding on a consistent basis throughout the internet. So where you have that consistent presence throughout different websites, platforms, Yelp, Google, this, that, the more consistent it is, the more likely that you'll be found on those AI platforms as well.
Exactly, because they are going to answer conversational questions. They're going to say, who should I work with when it comes to a merger, right? What people's experience with this and this lawyer, for example? Who is the best lawyer in Sydney, right?
Yeah.
It all comes back to the training material. So the way language models work is that they go through a lot of content in order to identify patterns and then come up with a probability-based answer. They do some fact-checking more and more with the knowledge graph, for example, but ultimately it comes down to the training material they got. And if you think about the party example, there's one lawyer, everybody else gives me information, what the experience was, etc. Just one person that comes to this party that shares a negative experience is going to skew the image I have about this lawyer. Now imagine there are 3 or 4 people not really speaking in favor of this lawyer. There's no chance I'm going to give them even a chance to convince me. Right? So we want to make sure that we control as many people as possible that come to this party in the first place.
Yeah, right.
Because this is going to impact how we come across as a brand. And on the internet, we want to control as much of the conversation about our brand, our personal brand, and the business brand as we possibly can, and early enough, because this is not a fast process.
So earlier you mentioned a reputation score. So how does that happen? And then you said, no matter what your score, it sounds like, is it like a percentage or just an overall score? But it sounds like there's no perfect score because there's always work to be done.
There's definitely always work to be done. But what we definitely score is the potential impact and the level of control. I give you an example. I have full control over my website. I have partial control over my Facebook page, because there might be a comment below or tons of comments every single day on my Facebook posts that are negative. So I only have partial control over this particular platform. And I have sometimes no control because this is a Reddit thread that's out there and that comes from 8 years ago. But Google now really likes to rank Reddit, as we know in marketing.
Yeah.
So it's just there and I have no control, and it might be really hard to solve this problem. And then we establish the score and also factor in the probability of being able to fix it in a certain period of time. And this is our internal formula where we then establish the scores. And
Okay, that was my next question.
Number 1, number 2, number 3, these are the scores. This is our roadmap based on the situation.
Okay, so this is kind of like an internal audit. This isn't something that you use like a tool that anyone could find online. No. So what platforms, if someone was trying to take a very broad look at their own reputation, what are the kind of directions and platforms, and where should they start?
They should just start opening up an incognito window or logging out from their Google session and performing a few Google searches. Your name plus reviews, your firm's name, experience your name, experience your brand name, these kinds of queries, and just check what comes up on page 1 from top to bottom. The further up, the more attention it's going to get. And then just think in your head, how much money is this costing me?
Yeah.
That I'm seeing this in this position. Because I have a client who actually was able to figure this out. They were losing $100,000 a month.
Oh my gosh. So how did they calculate that?
This was interesting. The way they figured this out was they made impulse sales on a webinar. And then people would Google them afterwards and ask for a refund because they saw their reputation. And reputation was largely based on one unhappy client. And this is the incredible thing here. One unhappy client who created a Trustpilot site page, and actually there was no way even legally to get this taken down. Ugh. So they could kind of claim it and kind of rename it a little bit and indicate this is not the official one. There was a better one, and they actually had pretty decent reviews. But it's with reputation, very often it's not about how much more money you can make. It's how much less you can lose.
Oh, I like that. Okay. So I'm going to restate that. So it's more about not losing so much. Mm-hmm. And it's not about, how much, it's not even really about like that number that your client came up with, which was $100,000. What was it? $100,000 a month?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not even about that $100,000. It's like reducing that $100,000. Mm-hmm. How much of that $100,000 can we shrink down so that it's just not as big of a number?
Exactly. And very often it's like quick fixes where it's okay, let's probably get from the 100 to a 90 rather quickly. And there are a couple of quick fixes. We told this company in an audit specifically, they're like, if you don't do anything else, do these couple of things. And this is going to save you about 10 grand probably. And then you can say, okay, what is the longer term strategy? We definitely want to bake ourselves into the algorithm. We want to make sure that we come across as a legit brand in the future. So now is the time to actually start this consistent work. But it's really just we need to be aware of the fact that if I don't own page 1 completely, there is always a chance that something pops up. And that what I see on page 1 is not what I'm going to see next month.
Yeah.
Take a look at page 2. Maybe on page 2, there's something really negative. You really don't want this to come up to page 1.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Okay, so let's take a step back from like the negative reviews and all of that and talk just broadly about other types of mistakes that people are making in terms of not addressing this or not thinking this through or just not making this as part of their marketing strategy.
Definitely, the first mistake is not seeing this as an important thing,
Yeah.
not seeing the importance of maintaining a clean brand profile.
Yeah.
And this just requires monitoring. Everybody with us that is on a reputation plan with us, we do a brand monitoring. We send them a weekly update and say, look, this week, these are the mentions of your brand. These are the mentions of the founder of your brand. This is our evaluation, whether negative, neutral, or positive. And this
Yeah,
is
and you
our
can do that
suggestion,
just
what
with
you can
a
do.
Google search and monitoring that Google search, like a very basic. I mean, you should definitely have that if you have nothing
Exactly.
else.
This is the first one. And then there are some more advanced tools that give you a little
Sure.
bit of a broader spectrum. But at
Yeah.
least the first step is to really notice what is out there about you. Sometimes we are the ones telling people that there is an ex-employee talking badly about them. And then there's really something going wrong in their marketing, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody is trying to get new leads. Nobody cares about the brand image. Something is going wrong there.
Yeah. I oftentimes will have people say they're so worried about these negative reviews or just, showing up on all these different places, especially places like Yelp, which for some reason I feel like that's an outlier. It's a whole different thing that they decide to sort of bury their head in the sand and not do it. So, what's your recommendation or your advice for people who are thinking, maybe I just don't go, maybe I don't have a Google business profile and I just, I sort of pretend like I don't know, I go incognito or whatever that I don't know why that strategy it doesn't make any sense to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But okay, I'm sure you get the same questions. Maybe we should just not be anywhere. So what do you typically say to the people who have that thought?
I think the process is flawed. So I'm very big at SEO leverage. We're very big on processes, right? And I said, okay, one of the processes I need for search marketing is to proactively generate positive content and positive reviews. Because you will never, it's never going to be just one thing and you just switch it off and nobody talks badly about you.
Right.
There are new platforms coming out literally every day, new AI tools coming out literally every day that people are using. We have people who have no idea about tech suddenly have a WhatsApp group with AI
Yeah.
chat in there. I had no idea. This was a client telling me about it. That's very much not tech savvy. You have no idea. You're never going to control enough platforms that you can switch off
Yeah.
to pretend you don't have this issue. You might not feel you're affected. You might have enough work, but you're also not really knowing what you're actually losing right now. Who is not even reaching out to you because they found something on Glassdoor or wherever about your brand that they didn't like. So the issue is there. You can't switch it off. You can ignore it at your own risk,
Yeah.
but you can't switch it off.
It sounds to me like the overall approach and thought about all of it is not to hide, not to be scared by the negative stuff because it happens to everybody. Instead, you talked about a proactive approach and to just really try to bombard and overwhelm with the positive. So be proactive, but also like overwhelmingly positive. Because even for myself, when if I'm looking at like a hotel review and there's a few negatives, I will for sure read them. But I'm also looking to see how crazy these people sound. Like, are they just being unreasonable? And oftentimes this is the case on law firm reviews where you can tell the person is unhinged. And so it's fine, because as long as you have a professional and succinct response, people understand that these things happen and that there are just, crazy people out there. But if you leave it alone and you have no presence and you just let the world be the world, it just seems kind of ignorant. But what are the kind of systems you have in place or the recommendations you have for making those reviews happen to get that consistent, positive flow of reviews to whatever platform you choose?
I just talked about this process to a client literally 2 hours ago. This is what I think. Every company that works with somebody and usually does a decent job and makes their clients happy, which is obviously the service needs to be okay, at least knows when a client has like this peak of excitement about your service.
Yes.
Right? So this is, I have a car repair shop and it's exactly when they hand over the keys, the car is recently washed, everything is fixed, the tires are shiny. This is when they show them the QR code to scan and say, could you please leave us a review? For a lawyer, this might be after the first conversation, maybe, where there is a lot of clarity coming in, where there's finally a perspective, there's a strategy developed, or it might be when the case was won, or when there was a major progress or something like this.
But it's not when you send the bill. It's not, yeah. And it's not like 3 months later, like, oh, remember me?
Exactly. There you go. But this is what people do very often. Say, we would need a few reviews. Let's poke all the old clients with a stick here to leave us a review 3 months, 6 months down the road. Somebody might not even remember this case anymore if they have a lot of those.
Yeah.
It's definitely, you need to pick the moment. One thing we very often recommend is to, if you have some sort of evaluation where you send clients like an evaluation about your services or something, depending on what they answer, you might be triggering a request for a review. So imagine they give you a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. This automatically, when we are big on process automation here, automatically this triggers a request for a review. And we can then define where this review should go.
Yeah. And I feel like with everything else in business, you just need a system around it. And if it has to be one of your assistants or an office manager or whoever it is that's going to get it done, there just needs to be a system around it. Because what I've found is it's a numbers game. For every 10 you ask, you're going to maybe get 1. And depending on your practice area, it might be even less than that. So you just have to, be more consistent with asking over and over. So I know this is going to be a good one. It's time for the Thought Leaders Library. We have a website with curated collection of all the top book picks from our guests. What's the one book you believe every lawyer should have on their bookshelf?
Like I said, I'm very big on a good process and a good list.
Yes.
So mine is the Checklist Manifesto from Atul Gawande.
It is so good. And across industries too. So tell me why you liked that, and then I will tell you what I love about this book.
Like I said, I'm very big on for me, everything is a process and you can break it down. But if you don't break it down into the steps that really matter for the person actually going through this process, it goes sideways, because they're either going to start inventing stuff, they're getting stuck, they don't have the information they need, they might be overwhelmed because the checklist is 10 pages long and they might really only need 5 steps. And we all have like our opinions about it, we have our experience, but in this book there is research, and not in any field, but actually medical statistics on how many lives were saved with a better checklist.
Yeah.
And this is where you say, okay, let's talk about credibility about the offer. There is as much credibility as you want about how to put this together and what the impact of a good checklist can be. Yeah. And if you say we probably have 50 standard operating procedures here around SEO and reputation management, we constantly go through them and start crossing things out or redefine something. And I think it's just really important that we dive into this concept and say, okay, a checklist isn't as easy and simple as it sounds. There needs to be some attention going to this, some focus going to it. And then it actually can have a huge impact on the business, on people's performance, people's happiness, frustration in the processes, and actually obviously also the outcome for clients.
I also feel like employees feel more autonomous because they know what the process is. There's a list in place, but this also just works for the way my brain works. I love lists, and I feel like when I'm thinking through whatever it is, like what we're going to eat next week and making a plan for, our dinners, I'll have thoughts and they kind of are swimming around, but putting them into a checklist and organizing that, first of all, it takes all of that thought and the process and the thinking and the effort out of my brain. And so then my brain is relieved to do other things. And same with anything in kind of a work environment or whatever. But also, when you have that system in place, then the likelihood of being closer to perfection is much higher. So you're going to perform better. Your clients are going to be happier. There's clarity and transparency in what's happening. And it just feels better on both sides. So the Checklist Manifesto, that's the book that we will link on the show page, also with the links to Amazon and all that good stuff. But also, I wanted you to have a moment to mention your own book, because this is a new thing and it's basically the entire subject of the show. So tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. The book is called Fix Your Online Reputation. It's available on Amazon. We really start with a book on fixing the typical issues we see with clients every single day, but then also work a lot about what the process could look like. What could a process look like that takes or prevents actually reputational issues from affecting you? You can't prevent them from happening, but they might not affect you so much. And really also gives guidance on how to prepare for an artificial intelligence-based world where everything that's out there about your brand actually will affect you.
Yeah. I wanted to spend one more minute talking about social media and how you recommend managing your reputation and thinking about that in terms of how people can present or just social media in general, and how people make mistakes on social media with the reputation. But then also earlier you were mentioning the levels of control. And so when it comes to social media, you'll never have complete control because it's not your platform. So what's your recommendation in terms of things to think about, concerns to have in terms of social media, and possible things to be aware of in terms of managing your reputation?
I have a couple of thoughts here. One is, first of all, not relying on any social media platform to be like the most important platform about your brand.
Yeah.
So we see sometimes people say, I don't need a blog, I'm on Medium. And Medium might just switch everything to a subscription model, and your content is behind a paywall and you're not showing up on Google with your Medium articles anymore.
Yeah, I could totally see that happening. Yeah.
We see people not having a Facebook profile anymore because Facebook is kind of old-fashioned. I don't need this. But then suddenly one of those positions that actually pushes down a negative one that's from Facebook isn't there anymore. I see people who want to be so authentic, because this is now really important that you're very authentic, that it's like they have some embarrassing videos about them, and you see a professional lawyer suddenly with an embarrassing video on their Instagram. It's not a good ad. Let's put it this way, right? So whatever is out there, if you're a professional, your face is obviously in front of people, and they make decisions based on what they find out about you. If you're in this position, you really want to be careful. I think everybody ultimately is in this position. Somebody looking for a job is going to be judged based on what's out there online about them, if they want or not, even subconsciously, when people want to hire them. So I think nobody should leave things that are not going to be in favor of them online in general. So you can be authentic without being embarrassing. You can be close to people, explaining your subject matter, your topic of expertise in a very simple way, very down-to-earth way, very relatable way. I believe it's important for people these days to find some videos where you talk about your subject. I would just consider people might discover you first on socials. And make up their mind before they even Google you. I'm not a social media expert here, but I understand how people work very often. And they might just use YouTube first and try to find a lawyer in a particular city and see who comes up there. Do they have 3 followers or 300? There is a big difference in terms of credibility out there. So not working a particular channel is like what you said before, Karen, when you said they just ignore and pretend this doesn't exist. We can, of course, pretend nobody's on YouTube, but we can also understand it is one of the top search engines.
Yeah.
And people use it all the time, of all ages.
Yeah.
And then we can say, okay, can we impact those people when they are searching for something we're selling? And how can we do this in a decent way? It doesn't have to be high quality produced video content, but you can be out there.
I see a lot of people struggling with the balance between their personal life and their professional life too. And I feel like we could probably do a whole other show about that. But I really do think this varies too. Like, I don't think there is a standard answer that's the right answer, depending on what your industry is and, what kind of practice areas you work in. I think for most lawyers, you probably want to keep your family and your personal life out of it. And for some subsections of law, you for sure want to. There's potentially security problems and you don't want to put anybody at risk. And it just seems kind of foolish. But I still see people posting all these personal things, stuff about their families, that their, kids just graduated from high school and a picture with them. And it's like, I just feel like that is not how you build trust. I think that's what they think they're doing, is building trust and like getting friendly with people. But I don't think that's the right answer.
I would agree. The argument definitely is if they can relate to something I'm doing, they're probably going to hire me. Somebody at the same time, I don't think anybody's going to hire SEO Leverage because they're into woodworking like I am. We might have this in common, but we probably don't want to spend the consulting hour talking about the latest woodworking tools and different brands.
Yeah.
So let's keep it simple. I can mention woodworking in my profile, but I don't have to have the profile I believe clients or potential clients are going to find about my topic, my kids, my pets, I don't know, my morning walks.
Well, and I have intentionally kept my professional and my personal life very separated, and it has never once come up. Like no one has ever. The only as personal as people will possibly get with me in a conversation is, where are you? Where's your office? Where are you located? And sometimes I'll mention that I grew up in the Midwest if they are in that same area, and we may talk about it. Mm-hmm. But that's about it. It never comes up, and it doesn't need to. I don't feel like it's a necessary part of doing business and showing that I'm good at what I do. So I feel like it's safer and cleaner to just kind of keep them separated.
I would agree. You can always have some different profile with a different name, not your real name, ideally, where you post whatever you want and you're friends with whoever you want to be friends. But yeah, I think there are a few things that might help somebody having kids. I very often get asked if I have kids, which is interesting.
Oh, interesting. Never do.
I found this interesting. I get asked a lot. So, do you have kids? This comes up a lot. So I tend to tell people about my kids when it comes up across naturally right now, but I get asked about it very often. But really, I think you can keep it to a minimum and definitely avoid potential risks.
Yeah, like I'm not going to give you their social security numbers and tell you where they go to school and stuff like that.
Absolutely, and it's just, I think the way I think about it is somebody types in my name, they are going to see my Facebook, my Instagram, my LinkedIn. Those are 3 ads that are out there about me. So I can use the real estate. Again, it's real estate. They can use the real estate on my Instagram profile for woodworking videos, or I can use it to bring across interviews like this one with Karen, where we talked about reputation management, and somebody might get value out of it.
Exactly. All right. So Gert, what is one big takeaway you would like people to get from this episode overall?
Their online reputation right now is costing them money.
Oh, yeah. I think most likely that is the most likely scenario, that it's, unless you're really putting a lot of effort into it, it's probably damaging.
It's absolutely damaging, and it's damaging now. And the longer you leave it unoptimized, the more difficult it's going to be to convince all the new algorithms out there about what you really want to bring across. So there is a little bit of urgency for people to take this seriously, I believe. It's like somebody the other day, I read it, I forgot the name. They said it's like if they told you today a tornado is coming in 5 years. So there are 2 chances, right? We can all be wrong. And then we have been preparing for 5 years for nothing. Or there is a slight chance everybody right now that talks about this is actually right. And then you have been preparing for this for 5 years.
Yeah. And you can start running now.
You can start running
and get
now.
away from the tornado.
Building an underground shed or something like that.
Exactly. Some cement bunker, whatever it is. You just, even if you do one little bucket of cement a day, and by 5 years from now, you're ready for that tornado.
Absolutely. There you go. I think this is the way how to think about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Gert Mellak is the founder of SEO Leverage, but also the author of Fix Your Online Reputation. We will put links to all that stuff, as well as the checklist manifesto and links to all of your social media and all that good stuff on the 3rd version of a show notes page that we've had. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Counsel Cast podcast. Be sure to visit our website at counsel-cast.com for the resources mentioned on the episode and to give us your feedback. If you enjoyed this episode, I would appreciate if you could rate and review the podcast on Apple and subscribe to your favorite podcast platform. See you on the next one.